for doing this is to get the word out to people, to educate the public on what we have in our budget. It was my goal to come in with a really good, responsible budget. I know that many residents of the town can't make it out to a lot of the meetings. They're at night, they may not be convenient for people, some people work nights. And so this is one way, especially with the budget process coming up, we can bring information out to people that's relevant to them and how they live their lives and how they live here in Stafford and what they need to know for the town of Stafford. Anything that we do, even if we do things on town property, we have to go to the public because the public owns pretty much the town. They're the taxpayers of the town. If we go to purchase a large item, a fire truck, or if the town wants to purchase a building somewhere and it's $100,000, that has to go to a public hearing so the public can weigh in on it and decide what they want to do. Certain things have to go to a referendum, like the budget has to go to a referendum. We have no choice. A referendum is a vote. It's not like an election. It's a vote from the taxpayers in town to decide if they want to pass this budget or not. It's ultimately their decision. And as the selectmen, the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Ed, it's our job to do the best we can for the people that live here in the town and pay taxes to the town to come up with a responsible budget that the people can get on board with. Just because we're elected officials, we can't make every single decision. I may have an opinion that I feel that I think the town should go toward, but I can't make that decision on our own. It's our job to bring it to the public. Anything that we feel that would benefit the town or the town should go toward, it's our job to bring it to the public so they can make the decision on where they want to go. Every single year in May, we have a budget referendum. And before that, we have 2 public hearings. So you're going to see that coming up for our budget for the next fiscal year. In the public hearing, we will hear comments from the public. They can give their opinion on what they think they want to have done and what they don't want to have done. We all learn things as we go along. Maybe that one opinion that you may have is an opinion that can change what we're thinking of. Let's not think of the public hearing as a negative. Let's think about it as a positive coming together for people to give their opinions to the boards that are here listening to you. And we want your input. We need your input. I welcome everyone to come out. If you have strong feelings, that's okay. I am here to listen to the taxpayers of this town and what their opinions are. That's why I was put in office. I may have opinions that differ from you or someone else, but come out, participate, be a part of the change that we want. At the public hearing, I'm right now preparing a handout to give to everybody. I'm going to give you what individual departments' budgets are, and I will also give you an explanation for each line item so that people can understand the reasoning behind what this whole process is. The first public hearing is coming up March 28th at 7 p.m. and that'll be held at the Community Center, 3 Buckley Highway in Stafford. Please come. On a day-to-day basis, the first selectman has the ability to sit with all department heads to figure out what is necessary, what is extreme, what we have to have done for this town. I have had a number of supervisors that work here for the town that have been very, very helpful in coming in and sitting with me to go over line by line by line of their budget so that I could fully understand why they needed that money and why they put it in their budget. I am very thankful that I have the group of people that I do working here. Each department that we have here in town has their own line items for their budget. They give us a wish list. They give us into the Board of Selectmen what they want for items in their line items for budget. It's the Board of Selectmen's responsibility to go through and say, you know what, maybe we can do that this year, maybe we can't do that this year. But over the last few years, the departments have done very well in streamlining what they have in their line items. For example, if somebody has a line item for office supplies, even though that sounds pretty insignificant, when you have a number of different departments, it's not insignificant. So we go through and we do a history. We'll go back and look 3 to 4 years back to see, have they used all the money in that line item? And if they have not, then that is a place that we may cut back on. There are certain departments that are large. Public Works Department is extremely large. They have a very big budget. They cover the transfer station, they cover the highway department, and they cover the parks department. So their department for line items is very, very large. We also have our facilities supervisor. They're the ones that he does the buildings. He does the maintaining of all the buildings. That is also a very, very large line item. They can tell us what they have for projects coming up, and then it's up to us to decide what is important and what is not. And then we present a cohesive plan to the Board of Finance. After we presented to the Board of Finance, I had some emails come in from department heads that said at the last minute they had information that their budget could go down by a little bit. They had more money than what they thought. I had some that said they forgot to put something in the budget. So it's a constant tweak. We are constantly tweaking this. I want the public to know that we have worked diligently to hear what everybody says, to put forth the most responsible budget that we possibly can. So let me talk a little bit about fixed expenses that we have in our budget. Those are items that we can't really do anything about. Just like in your own lives, you have electric bills, you may have water bills, you may have sewer bills. Those are fixed expenses that come every month. Just like the town, we have all of those fixed expenses that we have to pay no matter what. Things like salary. We have unions in town. Those contracts are negotiated. Those are fixed expense. Once we negotiate a contract and we agree on salaries, those are fixed. There's nothing we can do about it. The insurances that we pay for our buildings and our vehicles and our health insurance, all of those are fixed expenses. The only thing that we can play with in the budget is people's line items in their own departments. If they have a line item in their budget that has already been approved by a previous budget to do a job, then they can go ahead and do the job unless they're on a budget freeze, like what we've been now. Our buildings department has not done a lot of projects. That was budgeted in last year's, the budget that we're in right now, because there was a freeze on. We may not have enough money in our budget that we're sitting in now for them to do the projects. Unfortunately, when that happens, and we can't use that money, those projects don't get done, and that's why our buildings are in such disrepair. Same as goes to Public Works Department. We're down vehicles. Our vehicles are from 2008, are one of our newest vehicles that we have. We need plow trucks, we need that. Some of that is in our budget now. One of the topics that I've spoken about recently is the need for infrastructure to continue with the town of Stafford. We can't continue to constantly cut that budget. Our roads, we need to keep up the roads. I can't even stress how important that is. We've all seen some of the roads around town with potholes. That budget keeps getting cut and we can't keep doing that. In my opinion, the roads are what lead people into our town. The same goes for our buildings. We have a lot of empty buildings here in town, and we are constantly, especially the town buildings, we can't not continue to maintain them. Everything keeps getting put to the side. These are things that we have to consider to move forward in the town. of the things that I've spoken about a number of times, is to trying to get the town back to saving for future things. Making budgeting be a fixed expense. Put money in every year. I know it's been tried. There are some line items that money has been put away. For example, next year we're celebrating our 300-year anniversary for the town of Stafford. It's a great thing. So a couple years ago, they started budgeting a certain amount of money in to a line item so that they can save that money. There are other line items that this has happened to, but we end up robbing Peter to pay Paul at times when we don't plan for future endeavors. We have a problem with the lights up at the high school. That project has been brought to the forefront for a number of years. And I just found out about a report that was done last year and a life expectancy of it. I have part of that money in my budget this year, and I'm going to budget for it for the next 2 or 3 years so that it can get done. There's nothing wrong with budgeting. We can't continue to expect the state or the government to constantly give us money. We've relied on a lot of that, and a lot of that will still come, but we have to move on and find different ways that we can budget. As we're trying to put our budget together, we still are very unsure about what the state is going to be contributing to our town. We just don't know. In the past, we have had money townied to roads that we've had. They give us money for unimproved and improved roads. They give it to us in 2 portions every year. We've received the first portion this year, but I have a letter that states that we may possibly not get the second portion. We won't spend it if we don't get it, but that's something that we've been relying on for quite a few years. The budget that we currently sit in, the state is holding back money that they always have given us to run different departments. The Board of Ed, some of our departments. So it's very difficult for us to move forward when we don't even know if the budget that we're sitting in now, we may have to figure out where that money is coming from. We have every year pretty much since 1991, the town has applied for small cities grants. For the last 2 years, we haven't received those grants. I don't know why. I've spoken with the consultant that we hired to do these grants for the last few years. I don't know what happened in the last couple years, if the state just doesn't have the money or what's going on. But I have gone to the mandatory training sessions so that I can make sure, as much as I possibly can, maybe get a foot in the door and cross our fingers and hope we get that grant. We're going to use it for housing rehab this year, if we get it for next fiscal year. We're going to use it for housing rehab. We have a number of people that are on a waiting list who can't afford to do upgrades to their home, and we haven't had it for 2 years, and it is a detriment. That said, that's another one of those topics that I brought up in the first film. Can we continue to depend on that funding? I don't know. I don't think anybody knows, but we have to plan for our future not getting funding. And if we get it, it's gravy. Let's use it. But right now, I don't know. Our town assessor has given me the grand list, which means it's all the people in town that pay taxes, the businesses and everything, and it has gone up 0.5%. The budget that we're putting to the public are our expenditures. They're not what our revenues are. Our revenues may be good enough that it offsets a lot of what our expenditures are, and if that's the case, we may be able to keep the taxes level. The mill rate might be level. Treasurer's office, the CFO gives that, but that's not usually until right before the budget vote. My goal for taxes is the same as every single person that is a taxpayer in the town of Stafford, which I am also one of. I do not want to see the taxes go up. That said, I can't promise that, and I can't guarantee it'll happen, because if it's the best thing that for our town to be able to survive and function for the future, then I will be for it. I don't feel that I can cut programs. I can't say that I can cut any more from the buildings being maintained. I can't say that I can cut from public works. I don't want to say that it's going to affect the way that we do business in this town. It's my goal not to make that happen. I don't want to see our community suffer any further for having to cut services that are to the town. We are tweaking, we are trying, and our goal, I think, as the Board of Selectmen and the town, is not to have our taxes go up. Sometimes that's possible and sometimes it's not. But just to let everyone know, we are working for everyone's best interest in this town. For as long as I can remember, the budget has always been a contention in this town. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to always be negative. We have a lot of things going on good in this town. That is the reason for a vision plan. We can try to bring businesses in. We can try to work with what we have here to make a more affluent community, that we won't have to always fight for the budget. We need to figure out how we can create revenue for the town of Stafford. Do we bring business in? Or if we don't want to bring big box business or any business in, then do we want to reach into our pockets and pay more taxes? That's something that we all really have to think about. I alluded in the first film that we put out there about the 190 corridor and how I strongly believe that we need to bring some businesses into this town. We have to ask ourselves, how do we want this change? How do we want to make the town move forward economically? Do we want to reach into our pockets, or do we want to bring businesses in? Those are very, very difficult questions that we all need to ask ourselves. Over the last few years, it's been very difficult for us to pass a budget on the first time. I don't know why, because I've seen the budget for the last few years, and it's very spare. It doesn't have a lot of extras in it. There may be one line item in there that maybe someone doesn't like, but there may be other department budgets that are great. We have done a lot of hard work. All of my supervisors, every single department, we've done a lot of work to bring you a responsible budget that we feel that we need to run the town of Stafford.